Hi everybody, I'm Jeff from Missouri Wind & Solar, and today I want to talk about cable sizing and fuse sizing for your DC to AC inverters. Very common question. I just bought a DC to AC inverter. What size cable do I need and what size fuse? So for an example, I'm just going to use this Ames 1000 watt 12 volt DC to AC inverter. It's got a positive and negative on the back and your outlets on the front. This is just a common inverter. What size cable do you need? Well, this inverter requires a number 4 cable up to 10 feet. Number 4 is rated for 100 amps. And we make these inverter cables at the store, and this is basically welding cable that we use. Now, a 12 volt 1000 watt inverter requires a 100 amp fuse, and this is the most common fuse that we sell for inverters. It's an A&E fuse and the holder for it basically just slides in the front. Just snug the bolts down and that's ready to go. Now the ends are extra large. Your cable goes in here and comes out there, or vice versa. There's the first type of fuse. Then the second type of fuse you could use are breaker. This is a DC breaker. These are not AC breakers. There's a lot of difference to the DC breaker. This is a 100 amp DC breaker. You can also use this in line. And they have lugs to put your cable on. Really nice. Now where in the line does the fuse go? Well, this is your inverter cable. Say you already bought this. Just come down here as close to the battery bank as you can get. Just cut the line and put the fuse in the line down close by the battery bank. And the reason for that is if there's ever a spark or arc, you want the fuse closer away from the inverter so that any spark or arc that might occur if you're making a connection down here will dissipate through the cable before it reaches the inverter and does any damage. The second thing that you should have for an inverter, any inverter, is a battery switch. These are really great. I suggest you put one in your line so that you can disconnect anywhere in the line. So you can disconnect the inverter from the battery bank. With this big heavy switch, this is 275 amps. As you can see, the lugs on the bottom are really large. This will hold 275. But if you've ever got an inverter hooked up to a battery bank and you go to make connections, want to disconnect it, there'll be a lot of sparking and arcing. Don't ever disconnect the cables right off the inverter because you'll create quite a spark here. Screw up the threads, possibly screw up your inverter. Okay, question is, which is the most efficient inverter? 12, 24, 48. Of course, 48 volt is the most efficient of all. 12 volt is the least efficient of all. And why is 24 volt? We'll say 24 volt is probably a lot more common to use next to 12 volt. 24 volt is a lot more efficient. It's twice as efficient as 12 volt is. And here's one of the things to look for. 24 volt, 1500 watt DC to AC inverter will use a number 4 cable. Now this, you can go up to 10 feet. A 1500 watt 12 volt DC to AC inverter will use a number 2 cable. The cable is half the size for the 24 volt. So it's a lot cheaper just in cabling to run 24 volt over 12 volt. 24 volt and 48, of course, more efficient. The 12 volt appliances draw a lot more amps than a 12 volt appliance does. More amps, more heat buildup, less efficient. So 48 volt, the most efficient, and the 48 volt cable will even be half of this size. 12 volt least efficient. 12 volt is probably the most popular and most widely used because people can find 12 volt light bulbs and that sort of stuff in stores. But 24 volt is probably the most popular, I really think. They're kind of equal. And 48 volt is the least popular. 48 volt, very high voltage. 12 volt, low voltage. 48 volt, you've got high voltage to contend with on, say, a 48 volt battery bank. And you can be electrocuted pretty easily. 12 volt, less dangerous. So down below the video, I'm going to put a link to our website. And on the website, it'll have all the inverter sizes, the cable that is required for that inverter, and the fuse size for that inverter. So you guys don't have to wonder what size cable do I use for my inverter, what size fuse. Never use too small a cable for an inverter. That is very bad. That cable will overheat, even melt down, catch fire. If you're not sure what size cable to use, go bigger. It's always keeping in mind, if you think it's a size 4 cable, but you're not sure, go with a size 2. Larger is always better in inverters than smaller. Just keep that in mind. Always go larger. The bigger the better on inverters. Well, anyway, I'm Jeff from Missouri Wind and Solar, and I hope this helped you out.